Oke, hai Mbak Gita.
Hai Kak Ledy.
How are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good. I'm very well here. I'm in
In Manchester, I see.
virtually in Manchester.
Let me match you with a Dundee background actually. So,
Oh,
but
where is
I
that?
might take it away from the screen later because it's messing with my face. But just to show you, that's the Tay Bridge. That's the flagship bridge of our beloved city, Dundee in
Hmm,
Scotland.
great.
And
I always love Scotland. It's very,
yeah, it's good.
yeah, very
For
beautiful.
me, it's better than the rest of the rest of England. Actually, for us,
UK.
we're very proud of Scotland.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
you should. You should. Here, in my background is Whitworth Hall. This is the main building of University of Manchester. So
Ooh.
for everyone who is watching us today and sort of wondering what are we talking about, we're talking about places that we went to as a Chevening scholar. I'm here with Gita Syahrani. She's my friend, a fellow scholar. She and I actually went to the UK in sort of like a kind of similar period. I went to Manchester in 2009 to 2010, and then she went to Dundee, University of Dundee, 2010 to 2011. We're both Chevening scholar from Indonesia. Uh, Gita is the sitting president of the Chevening Alumni Association in Indonesia. So that,
Yay! Almost over my term next year. Almost over. Maybe it's time for Ledy.
yeah, well, with us luck if I actually get to do it.
Yay!
We're going to talk about aspects. So not just one aspect, so aspects, plural, about the Chevening Scholarship. We have opened channels for our friends to ask questions. I received some questions. Gita also have received some questions. A lot of similar questions, actually. So the way we're going to answer that is we address it by topic, because a lot of the questions actually sort of a bit repetitive, a bit kind of similar, and I think it will be more effective if we just go through by the topic. Chevening Alumni Association has been around in Indonesia for how many years now? We've been
So this is year four. Year four is.
year four,
Yep.
and recently the association, together with the British Embassy, just have a official press conference to announce
Mm-hmm.
the opening of the application for Chevening
Yep.
Scholarship, particularly in Indonesia, for 2021-2022 academic year. Um,
Yep.
Actually, the scholarship application is now open in many countries in the world, not just Indonesia. It is a full-funded scholarship for master's degree in the UK, just in case you still wonder, because there are people that ask, can I apply for a PhD or bachelor's degree? The answer is not yet. Right? So far,
If you can apply for a PhD, I'm pretty sure Ledy and I will be applying too.
the first one, like ambassador.
Yeah.
So just to kick off and kind of set the tone for our discussion today, I would like to ask Gita maybe to summarize or to walk us through the general explanation or elaboration about Chevening Scholarship application, particularly for this year, as probably you have shared with the ambassador during the press conference, Mbak Gita. So do you mind?
Sure. I think actually I'm going to summarize what they've shared because we at that time we were introducing our program, and at the same time the embassy, both the ambassador as well as the head of the Chevening was walking us through how Chevening scholarship would look like, especially this year, especially during the pandemic, what is different, what it's not. And the great news is that they're not about to reduce any quota. So
Hmm.
it's a good thing for all of you that's trying to apply out there. You're lucky because it's I think it's around 60 to 70 slots this year as well for the next batch. And basically, in terms of the application and why Chevening as a scholarship is something that is, for me at least, it's very strategic, is because it's completely merit-based, and it's also aiming to look at, so there's no sort of typical Chevening scholars, right? It's anybody that has a potential to be a future leader, and it has who has passion and who has ideas and can actually prove that they can influence others around them, to make their idea happen for the greater goods in a way. And that's particularly why the essays and the application is structured the way it is structured right now, because they're looking for a triple threats in a way. Like you have the potential, you have the passion to make it happen, and then you're also effective in making sure that your support system is well rounded. In a way, in terms of the application, it's open. It's open last week, and it will still be open until early November. And so you have a window of October to prep yourself, and throughout the October, you can sign in to your application form and then save it, and you don't have to finalize it essentially until you're happy with your application. But just to be aware of the uncertain situation right now, the new version of Chevening Scholarship also doesn't require language proficiency, because they recognize the difficulties in obtaining those, especially if you're restricted. But you will have a deadline to submit letter of acceptance coming from the university, which will require language proficiency. But for those, the deadline is not until next year. So if you got the scholarship, then you just have to apply to the university, and you can think about the language proficiency later. And then what's also special about this year is that there are quite a number of requirements that you needed to fulfill if you want to defer your scholarship. So if you look at the website, it will say very specific things. Actually, only if you're pregnant you can defer your scholarship. That was the requirement before, but now because of COVID, there are new rules invented, especially to address those with limiting economic situation, limiting family situation, family emergency, and also actually conditions from the university, because some universities takes longer to issue letter of acceptance because of the pandemic. So the scholars are allowed to defer to next year.
I think regarding the English requirement, that's actually a big, to me, it's a big discretion that now people can sort of move ahead with the application without at this stage, at
this stage.
Because when you apply to university, you still need the English requirement. And talking about English requirement, the reason we do this video in English, it also has something to do with that. We're not trying to be, British, because we're not.
Obviously
not. But my experience when I went to Manchester, I don't know about Mbak Gita, but there is a big adjustment in terms of studying in a different language. I think regardless what language that you are switching from or switching into, it is an adjustment to write, to read, to talk, to listen, to understand lectures, and to write papers, and at the end of the day, writing a dissertation completely in English. It's all a big adjustment.
I think the biggest challenge was to adjust, because when we speak in Bahasa, most of the time our thinking is also in Bahasa, right? So if we shift to another language, then it takes time to make our brain also think in another language. So maybe it's a good exercise, because once you start your course, there's no pause, there's no pause to wait for translation or to let your brain process in another language. You just have to go with the flow, right? So let's practice until we're almost native.
Chevening is a program that targeted to identify future leaders. So that is very obvious. And
That's true.
I may share my screen right now. This is the, okay, this is now up and running, right? This website. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. This is the official website of Chevening Scholarship. And if you click on scholarship, then you can find all kinds of technical elaboration about application, guidance, course. And if you look into this elaboration right away there, you know, in the first paragraph, it says merge from all over the world to pursue one-year master's degree in the UK. So the reason why I want to show this to our friends who are watching this video, because this website is very good. It's very complete. You can find a lot of answers regarding your technical questions regarding application. Literally, I cannot see anything that not being addressed here, including some tips and research course guiding you throughout the application system. And then if you wonder, you know, who can apply, the eligibility to apply, why study in the UK, and the timeline. So please make sure you spend time in this website. This is very important. There's a lot of answers to some general questions regarding the fellowship or regarding the scholarship. Please don't confuse the scholarship with the fellowship. The scholarship is for master's degree, and the fellowship is for non-degree, right, Mbak Gita? I think it's 6 months program.
Yep. Yeah. The fellowship is non-degree.
Yeah, so please don't confuse that. So my answer to that question, what is Chevening is looking for? They're looking for a leadership quality in you. So I think it is important for us to contemplate about our future plan before we apply to the Chevening Scholarship. I always tell people, don't just imagine about getting the scholarship. Imagine how the scholarship will help you to achieve or for you to realize your future plan, your future plan as a leader. What do you want to do when you get the education? What do you want to contribute, or what do you want to bring to Indonesia when you come back? Because I think that will paint a better picture when you write your application. Because if you stop as just like, I just want to get a scholarship, I don't think that's good enough. We have to think a bit further about what do you want to do for your society, your community, your country, your area, your profession. You know, what do you want to contribute to that, and how the education in the UK will help you. What about you, Mbak Gita? Any thoughts on that, about what is Chevening for?
I guess it's also, I mean, it's pretty much the same line in terms of looking for future leaders. In the mentoring program, we have this type of recipe that we share with the future scholars who becomes the mentee. In a way, it's about finding your why, and you have to know your why before you're applying. So if the answer to the question, why should you be given Chevening Scholarship, is only because I want to be smarter, then that is not enough. Unfortunately, we have this sort of formula of 3 circles, the 3 circles rules. So the first circle is your immediate circle, which is you and your closest connection, like your family and maybe your close friends. So think of ways of how do you explain, by investing in you, at least you will be able to make an impact in your immediate circle, right? But then don't stop there. You have to enlarge the circle into the second layer. And the second layer usually are things that reflects where you live, even Indonesia as a country, maybe for some profession, or even in the region like Southeast Asia. Whatever you think is the second layer, then you think about it that way. How can this investment, because it's an investment, right?
Yes.
How, by investing in you, then Chevening are making a difference in expanding their impact into the second layer of your circle. Then the third circle, the way that I'd like to ask future scholars to think about, is the world. And in particular, how does that help also connectivity between Indonesia and the UK? Because essentially this is about UK tax money paying us as future scholars. And how can we play a role in making sure that Indonesia and the UK can benefit from each other, and also how the world can benefit out of the education that we get? So unfortunately, it's a bit like, it's a tough question, right? Sometimes people are like, are you sure you have to think about it that way? And I'm like, yeah, because
Yeah.
this is you against 6,000 other applicants,
Yeah.
and you better make sure that they think it's worth the while to invest on you instead of somebody else. So you do have to think about it in a larger scheme of things.
Yes, and since you mentioned that, by the way, there's a great classification groups of circle of influence that the applicants probably would like to consider. And then another thing is that the competition. We're not trying to scare anyone, because this is just a factual information. Chevening has been known as one of the most difficult scholarships to get. I keep hearing
Yeah.
from people.
So in my academic years, it was around 4,000 applicants, but then it was a crisis year for the UK. So it was also a bit tough, right? So I think we had 20, there was 21 of us that got selected, but then because of the whole budget cuts, and it was very rough for UK that year, including on education, there was only funding to fly out 16 of us. So it's the smallest batch, I think, but it was 16 of us. Yeah, I agree. It's a very competitive process. And 2019, actually, we just got the data in from last year, and total global applicants for Chevening, it's actually almost 60,000 applicants per year. That's the average. And out of the 60,000, around 52, almost 53,000 are eligible applications globally, and almost 10,000 is ineligible. So we will talk about the common errors later. So because you don't want to be, disqualified even before it comes to content, right? Because in eligible application means you just don't meet the administrative requirements. And Indonesia is actually the top 5 country in Chevening applications.
What is the figure? What was the figure in 2019, if you can?
I think to 2019 it's almost 6,000. See, that's what I remember. Yeah, from last year. But it's also interesting how around 20, like more than 20% of applicants are applicants that have applied the previous year. So like if you're watching this and you failed in your application last year, just go ahead and apply again. We have a record of somebody that applied 7 times before they got accepted. But, right? Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's just not your time yet, because it's super competitive. And I always say, okay, maybe 60% is hard work and good research and just good preparation, but 40% is luck. So
timing, good timing.
Yeah,
I think the acceptance rate for Chevening usually is around 1%, 2%. So from
1 to 2%.
There were 60 scholars got the award in 2019. Yeah. So yes, so by figure, yes, it is competitive. So that's why I said it's not to scare anybody, but we're just trying to paint a picture about the factual number. Regarding what Chevening is looking for, they're looking for basically a person with a leadership quality, a good investment, obviously it's a big investment, and then the most important thing, it has to be articulated in the application, isn't it?
It's very important.
Because some people sometimes, I was once got involved or was invited by the embassy to fill one of the sessions of the interview, to become one of the panelists in one of the interview sessions. There are many interview sessions. I was there as an alumni. The articulation of the qualities is so imperative, because you have to impress somebody in a kind of short period of time, or you have to impress the reading committee before the interview. There will be a reading committee.
True.
Know you, didn't see your face, and then they read your application, and is very important how you articulate that in the application. Now it's a segue for us to go into the application. So the application is online, has been online for now many years. Some questions about the application is or are about work experience, or as about study plan. I think study planning courses. I will put courses on that, and references. So, Bagita, why don't you go ahead with work experience? So, what does it mean with work experience?
So, this is a common question that people ask, because Chevening is quite specific about work experience. They actually count it by hours. So it's actually, you have to prove that you have at least minimum 2,800 hours of working. But for that particular working hours, I say an air quote, because they're also quite understanding in the type of things that qualify for that. So full-time employment, part-time employment, unpaid internship, and also volunteer work would count, as long as you can prove it. But you have to be really careful in proving this. So in the application form, you will have to count the hours to be very specific, but also realistic, right? So if you think about a working week that maybe constitute of around 35 to 50 hours max, and then a working year that also look at 40 to 50 weeks maximum, please don't over exaggerate. Although you're like, I only sleep 2 hours a day gitu, but please just enter a realistic number lah. You can do an average of how many working hours you use. But just to answer briefly, and this is something that you can also find in the website. You can look at definition of working hours, and it will say there. And then you can also find a tips of how do you calculate the working hours and how to make sure that it is realistic, so that you don't say, okay, I work 20,000 hours per year, which is shouldn't be the case. That's maybe slavery, guys.
And it doesn't make you look good either.
Exactly, right? Because no, actually, that's a good point. Because in Chevening, it's very interesting. And Ledy mentioned about alumni being involved in the interview panel, and that's how involved alumni is, and how the institution of Chevening looks at alumni as part of the actual structure. So there will be questions like, what do you like to do if you're not studying in the UK? And this is something that you have to also think about. If somebody were to answer, they would just rather sit in the library the whole day, then this is not the Chevening experience that we want. Because Chevening is not only about studying, it's also about enjoying this, the life in the UK, enjoying the culture, gathering the network. You cannot be a leader if you cannot network. That's just the way it is, right? And if you work 20,000 hours per year, maybe you don't have time to socialize, and this is not the Chevening quality in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a question that came to the account of Talks with Ledy. Somebody asked, what does it mean with the leadership quality? Somebody like, what should I say in the essay when I describe leadership quality? And then I tried to remember my experience sitting as a panelist. My answer will be this, and I'm sure Bagita will have her input on this as well. We're not looking, you have to be a CEO first and then you can apply for Chevening. That doesn't make any sense. But this is about, you have to be able to articulate when you do something, when you lead a project, when you lead an organization, when you lead a team, what was your strategy? What kind of challenge that you face and how you deal with that? So that's the way you articulate leadership quality that you have. What problems, don't be afraid to say, we face this problem, we face this challenge when I was leading this project or this team or this organization, when I was assigned to this job, for instance. We face this hard times, and this is what I did. This is what we did. And then what is the outcome of what we did? So by telling that in a way, like a story, this is about the element or the quality that you actually applied in facing, either is it your job, either is it maybe you have a project outside your job, or anything. Your thoughts on that leadership quality, Magda?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the three things that we usually recommend in terms of leadership, the first one is the ability to actually think about the type of impact that you want to make. So that's important. Making sure that your articulation about the impact you want to make is consistent, both in the experience that you talk about, but also in the future study plan and the future plan after your study. So having that clear pathway about your impact is one trait of leadership that is helpful, right? The second one is to be specific, because in Indonesia, we tend to be a bit shy about accomplishment. And in a way, if you're being asked to describe the type of leadership that you have, or proof of leadership that you've done, you tend to talk about your team or like the success of my organization, of our organization, and it's not specific to you. And that's difficult for Indonesian because we don't like to brag. That's just the culture, right? But you have to separate when you talk about your organization versus you talk about your contribution towards that success. Like, you can talk about the success of the organization, but make sure that you paint a clear picture how your leadership within the process is actually contributing to the success of the organization. So that's the second one. Be specific about you, right? And the third one is about circle of influence. Going back to that, is also it's for us. I think the Chevening mentoring program also highlight the needs for you to describe that you are at the movers of shakers of the world, right? Like you don't just have a good idea, but you know how to execute it, and you know the way to make it like a widespread ideas and gain more supporter. So again, about the quality of the type of networking that you've done in the past, and the type of, like Ledy said, the type of action you did to act upon adversity. Those are the things that you need to highlight. So I guess those are the three things.
Yes, yeah. And in line with that, there are some questions that came to us as well. You know, how do you link the your study, your background discipline, let's say in your undergraduate, your bachelor degree, your work, and then your study plan and your career plan or future plan after you come back. So there is some kind of there are some questions that basically ask about how do you link all of these things or all of these aspects. My answer, my simple answer for that, it has to make sense. That's the key. It has to be sensible and make sense. So when you write it, picture somebody else's who doesn't know you again, read it. Does it make sense, somebody with this background, with this job, aspiring to be that or aspiring to do that? So the key here that it has to make sense. It has to be sensible. There's a reason for everything. Let's say you want to apply to this course. What is the reason? You want to apply to this school. What is the reason? This is my plan for the next 5 years, because I think it is asked in one of the essays, what is your future plan, for I think 5 or 10 years. What is the reason? Why do you want that? Because, sometimes people know what they want and they want to have to describe, why do you want? Yeah, not everyone immediately can be articulative about that. Why do you want that? Why do you think it is important? So that's my golden rule. It has to make sense. What about you, Gita?
I think part of the important thing to notice is actually the application process in Chevening helps you guide your thinking on this. So going back, I hate to say to sound like a broken record, but even before you start your application, please make sure you know your why. Like that is the fundamental, like what type of impact you want to make for Indonesia, you want to make for the world, for yourself, things like that. So once you know that, actually that is your anchor, right? Like that is the good, a good solid northern star that you can always refer to every time you want to move to the next step. So for example, I'll just use myself as an example. So at that time, my main impact is to have a better legal representative for Indonesia in climate change. Because at that time, the challenge that I faced is that we are a powerful country. We can contribute a lot on climate crisis, etc. At the time, it was still called climate change because nobody really cares about it. But every single legal representative actually comes from outside of the country, so we have no fair representative. And at that time, that was the impact that I wanted to tackle. But it was also, well, for me it was easier because I have been studying law, I've been practicing law, and then I wanted to do a master's study in law, but I wanted to be very specific on climate change and energy. And that became my impact became the milestones of which I started structuring my application. I think about, okay, if the impact is legal representative, what type of course do I want to select? And then what type of networking can I find? What city, what region of UK should be suitable if I wanted to study about climate change? That's why I chose Scotland, for example. So this application process is actually helping you to think about it in a structured way. Like if you see the application, there would be a selection of courses that you need to think about, right? At that time of selecting courses, I remember I look at it from actually I didn't look at rating at all. But that's not like
kind of rare. A lot of people look at ratings, right?
No, because it's actually like the committee also asked me, because I put a university like Dundee was in terms of rating, Dundee is much lower than UCL, but I put Dundee as the first option, then UCL, and then I get accepted to both, and then I chose Dundee, and then they were like, why do you because I think about it. Yeah, I think about it from the actual location I want to be in, and also the environment of the study. So this is also related to how do you make that connection? Yeah, if you are trying to weave a story that you will be in a much more practical professional career in the future, then you want a university that also think about studying that way, and that's why I chose Dundee. But just making sure that you do everything very intentionally, I think would be the mantra for me. If, like Ledy said, if you can tell a story, then you're set. The 4 layers of essay, right? You have to think about why do you want to study in the UK? You have to think about what do you want to study? To be specific, if you have already a university in mind, a course in mind, it's even better. It makes a stronger essay, I would say. And then you have to prove your leadership. But then if you can link it back to the why and the what, it's even better. And then you have to also think about what would you do after you come back. So in a way, it's already a story. You shouldn't look at it as 4 separate essays. It's actually part of one story, but separated into 4 chapters.
Yeah. So just if back up a little bit, something that we have mentioned about investment. This is an investment.
Yeah.
British government investment in an individual, in a talented individual. So my experience, either me as a person who was being interviewed or me as an alumni member who got invited to become a panelist, my experience, every future scholar who walk in the interview, or every future scholar who got their application being reviewed, they are being looked at as a whole person. So you are a whole person for the committee. You are a whole person for the panel. So this is about you and your story and your aspiration and your capabilities and your talent. we're not all the same. Of course, if you look at the demographic of Chevening alumni members, we have film directors, we have actors, we have doctors, we have lawyers like Mbak Gita, we have business people like myself, we have professors, we have politicians, people with many experts. No one is exactly the same like the other. So every Chevening scholar, they were being viewed as a whole person with their life story and their achievement, their aspirations. So don't be shy. I want to repeat Mbak Gita's point. Don't be shy to tell us that story. Obviously, again, it has to carry some weight, has to reflect, some good points why I'm a good person that you invest by sending me to the UK. That is about study plan. Why don't we talk about courses? I think if we go back to the website, there is a clear guidelines. I'm going to share it once again just to make it easier. I'm going to share this once again. So in this page, there is a guidance to find a course.
Yeah.
And this
is just a guidelines, guys. It's not restrictive, right? Like if you cannot find your course in there, doesn't mean that it doesn't apply. You just have to look further. Yeah.
So this is pretty complete. You can search by course, university, location. And like Mbak Gita said, there's a missing course form too if you can't find your course.
Exactly.
So see, this is actually pretty complete, and there's a guidance for that too, like eligible course criteria, how to find a course, choosing your courses. So in my year, I don't know about in 2021 intake, but in my year there was no restriction regarding courses, but there is restriction regarding tuition fee. There's a limit regarding the tuition fee. But I don't know, what about this year, Mbak Gita, regarding tuition fee and all of that?
So it's pretty much the same. On MBA, it's 18,000, I think that's the limit.
Pounds
pounds sterling per year, and for others it's I think around 13. But no worries, my course was more expensive than the limit, and it got me worried at that time because I was very adamant to choose Dundee and to put in particularly my program, the Center of Energy, Petroleum, and it's so long. Center of Energy, Petroleum, Law, and Mineral Resources, Law and Policy, CVMLP. But for that particular course, it was, I think, 3,000 or 5,000 pounds more expensive than the limit, because our limit at that time was still 10,000. But what happened was Chevening helped me got a partial scholarship from the school, so I didn't have to pay myself either. So in any case, you just choose the course that you want to choose, and then if you got accepted, then you'll deal with the consequences later. Because at that time, I was also saving up my own money just in case I have to pay for the additional tuition money. But yeah, I mean that can be one consideration if you really want to apply to one particular school. But otherwise, there's plenty of university to choose from. And again, I strongly encourage you, all of you that is watching, to please be intentional about the choices that you make. Like, you don't just choose London because you want to live in a big city, although that is a plus, right? Like if you want to work as a journalist and you want to learn from the big news media, it's in London. But just make sure that you're intentional about the choices that you make in terms of courses, whether it has the right course for you in terms of the syllabus and the content, right? You can just browse through the university and look how they design their program and their curriculum, and also the interaction with the alumni. Nowadays, it's even easier. In 2010, it was still a bit hard to find like alumni stories, but now everybody's sharing their stories. Right. I would say, because I'm coming from more like a policy background, I always check. Like that's why it's Scotland. At that time, Scotland has the most ambitious goals when it comes to climate change. So I was like, it has to be in Scotland, right? So, so policy oriented thinking is also helpful, but also in terms of location, you have to think about it from the network that you can build in that particular location, and also you look at it from the type of, I guess, the type of experience of the UK that you would like to
Yes.
have. I think that's important, like culturally, and also nature. Like nature was a big thing, like is a big thing for me. That's why Scotland, right?
Yes,
So
Scotland
it's
is
okay.
for that.
Yeah, it's okay to think about it not on like an always academic way. You can be more adventurous about thinking what would fit me. If you're a family and you are going to travel as a family, if you got the scholarship, then what place can accommodate you the most?
Yeah.
And this is very practical, but you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you don't have enough money to support the family from the scholarship funding, right?
Yeah.
So, and then
Yeah.
you cannot also have a full-time job. So all those things you have to consider. Make sure that you know the location, the living cost there, and how does that compare to the stipend that you will receive as a scholar.
Yeah, because your stipend will be for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
the stipend is for individual scholar.
Yep.
I think that's how it is managed. So for those of you who plan to bring your spouse or your child, there's a lot more to consider. It's just the nature
Mm-hmm.
of it. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. You should, but just make sure that you're prepared. You know,
Yeah.
well researched, like Gita said. Like I live, for instance, I live in Manchester. It's a pretty big city, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
expensive. I
It's
mean,
true. Actually, Manchester is a good deal.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people say that. A lot of people went to Manchester probably.
It's true.
I mean, you can still get a sense because I went to business school, so it is important
Mm.
to be in a somewhat vibrant city with
Yeah.
I can witness how the UK economy, sort of going, on and about. I still get a sense how big city is like, but it is a lot more affordable than London. It's just the nature of, capital city. It's one of the top cities
Yeah.
in the world. It's international city, so yeah. I mean, it's kind of more expensive. But like, there
Mm.
are some disciplines that probably, it is best if you are in London, like media.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of
Exactly.
our colleagues who studied a media study, a lot of
Or
them,
arts.
yeah, or arts, right, or arts. That is, yes, absolutely, go there. But don't worry, the stipend is enough. If you live as a student, the general rule is don't worry. It will be enough
Don't worry.
if you live as a student.
Chevening,
We're
it's
not
enough.
trying to.
No, it's true. Actually, like
Yeah.
the way that the way that Chevening described the stipend and the support for the scholars, like they don't want you to worry about anything
Yeah.
else than completing your study, right? So your
Yeah.
flight is covered, your sort of moving cost is covered, your monthly stipend is covered. If you wanna go for conferences, etc., those are the things that you can actually ask. Also, just in case, not everything is approved, but sometimes, yeah. So you shouldn't be worried too much about anything rather than completing your study.
Yes.
But of course, there's always like, I guess in my experience, it's also when you're in Scotland, you just want to travel, right? Like there's lots of like very pretty places that you want to visit, and for things like that, sometimes you want extra pocket money
Yeah.
just to travel around the country. And as long as it's not against the regulation, there are certain limit to foreign student, international student, and Chevening scholars, where you can maybe do a part-time here and there. You can assist teachers and etc. as long as it's still abiding the rule. And you can still do it. It's not compromising your study. Then yeah, go for it, I think.
Actually, the advice from the always enjoy life in the UK. See the cultures, go to some. If you like art, there's a lot of museums, free museums.
Free museum. Oh my God.
That is
Amazing.
one of the greatest thing about the country.
Ah,
Museums.
amazing.
And
Lots of
like,
parks, lots of nature to explore. Oh my God.
and because Indonesian scholars, like many other country scholars, we go there in batch.
Mm-hmm.
So we will go there with I went there with other 20 plus people. So, and we are all, you know, scattered around the UK. There are some of us studying in Scotland, in England,
Yeah.
and so you can visit each other. That's
True.
kind of convenient for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also, I think, now that you mention it, the network of Chevening, once we are in the UK, it doesn't stop to only networking with Chevening from Indonesia. It's actually
Hmm.
involving Chevening from other
Yeah.
parts of the world, right? So I remember at that time I was visiting fellow Chevening from Africa in Wales, and then going to Ireland with fellow Chevening from China, and so
That's
yeah,
great.
the family of Chevening,
Yeah.
once you're in the UK, becomes closer, and every time you hear the word fellow Chevening, you immediately feel that trust and
Yes.
bond, right? And this is something that you shouldn't be taking for granted. That's why I'm so excited for everybody to just apply, because once you're in Chevening, you have a family for life. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a bit about you know living in the UK a little bit. We're gonna discuss that a little bit more in the end. But I'm gonna touch on this point about references. Now we're still
Mm,
on the topic of application references. There are some questions or a question that asks who should I ask to be my references? Because I think you need minimum two or three right
mhm.
now. I think minimum when I apply,
Cool.
minimum there should be
Yeah.
two references. One of them should be your supervisor or your manager at work.
Mhm.
So the other one, I chose to ask my former professor at university to be my references. So those are my two references. So my academic advisors and then my work manager, my supervisor in the office. What about you, Mbak Gita? About references?
Same. I think the general rule is they should know you.
Yes.
So I think that's the most important part. You should pick somebody that can really speak about you because you've had experience or you've had a close contact, and they can actually refer you as a good investment again, right? So you don't want some strangers, although they're important, like if it's a president of the country, for example, but they
Hmm.
just know you because they met you once. You don't want that type of reference because just trust us on this. Like the people that read your application, they read thousands, right? They would read 50 thousands of application, so they can already smell it. If the reference letter sounds a bit generic, too generic, then they're like, yeah, pass. So make sure that you choose somebody that can really speak about you in a personal way, not in a personal like a close friend kind of way, but even professionally, they can pinpoint real examples from the time that they felt you pose a good leadership quality, for example.
Yeah.
So at that time, I chose. So it can be both. Answering to that question in terms of whether it has to be academic or professional. Actually, you can do either way.
Mhm.
But just like Mbak Ledy said, just to balance, I also chose somebody that the founder of my law firm at that time as my first referee, a reference, and then the second one is from the university. But
Mhm.
both, I was really careful to help them build the reference statement as well. Like right now, if you go to the website, it actually gives guidance for referee on what type of things that should be there. And the most important part is the personal touch, in terms
Yeah.
of, for example, my founder mentioned the fact that like I entered the law firm quite clueless because I was from an international law background and it was a corporate law firm. And then he said, a very specific example about within the first 2 years, what I did, what I've achieved, da 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 da. And same with the dean. At the time, I asked my dean from the university.
Hmm.
He actually used. I love this. But he passed away several years ago. But he used this example of one particular essay about Hotel Rwanda, the movie,
Mhm.
where I wrote an essay about that, and he quoted the essay. So it was very
Oh,
personal, and I
yeah.
think that is the quality you want in your reference letter.
Yeah, that is pretty strong. You know, somebody commenting on your academic work, if they
Mm-hmm.
are your professor, you know, that is a strong point. Interviews. We got to go to interviews.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned it a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a bit of an experience being a panelist. Basically, interview is like job interview to me.
Yep.
When I was applying or when I was a panelist, it's sort of like a job interview. So if you've been in job interview, it's sort of like that. Uh, so you know, a lot of people came in, and I realized this when obviously when I sat as a panelist, they're nervous, and I realized maybe I was like that too. I was
Yeah.
nervous too. But cheapening panelists, you know, actually prefer you to be relaxed, because if you're relaxed, you can manage your answer better. So just try to manage the nerve. Yeah, it's very understandable. People get nervous because they expect all the most difficult questions that they're gonna hear and then how to answer. But just manage. Just think about, you are talking about again about your life, and these are the people who would like to hear that. That's very important. So don't think that, oh, I'm just going to bother these people with my story, or I'm just going to bother, waste their time talking about. As long as you answer their questions, as long as you're actually trying to explain what they want to know, they want to hear that, and that is like serious.
Yeah.
My experience one time as a panelist, I am so glad if I can find something, a strong point from an answer of
Yeah.
the candidate. I feel glad. I feel like, oh, that
Yeah. Like, yay. Right.
yeah. So we actually feel good about the whole session.
Yeah.
When the session is productive, not just us asking a lot of questions, but you able to tell us, what is important for us to know. And I think that's key, because sometimes, I understand people may be intimidated with the whole chevening thing, and then, it is difficult. I have to be somebody else. No, just be you.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. And show us the best of you. That's my take on the interview. But Gita, what about yours?
Yeah, I think it's quite accurate what you just painted. I think it's important to highlight that the panel is there to root for you. Like, they're not there to destroy you or like to bash you or whatever. There will always be a glass of water on the table. Just drink the water, like to help you relax, I would say. And some have came up to us with questions like, should I bring a notepad? Can I write things down? Like, go ahead. If it's because I'm also like that. I like to draw like mind map when I'm explaining something. And we've had applicants in the interview that actually draw the things that they want to make, because like they're engineers, right? Like they're thinking about renewable energy and like how their piping would make it better, and like because it has to be very specific. And then he drew the entire thing, right? He was like, and it's like this, and this is why it's better, blah, blah, blah. So as long as it's helping you to achieve your goal of telling your story, it's good. But I would say that you need to be very efficient with your time, because there's limited time, and you have to practice. I think having a program like the thing that we're offering right now, where you can do mock interview, I think it's helpful, because you can then practice from your storyline which part are the strongest, and you have to highlight, and which one are like, okay, a bit redundant, you just have to cut that out because it's getting too long. So yeah, I think the same with the other answer. You need to do your research, you need to be intentional, and you need to think of it as something that you need to prepare for, but don't over prepare to the point that the panel cannot see the real you. And in some situation, it's just too much, and then you just cannot tell the story that you want to tell, because you are over prepared for it. So take your time, be relaxed, drink the water, take your pen. If it's easier for you to write things down, as long as it helps you get more comfortable.
And by the way, the application that got into the interview process, they're all shortlisted.
Mm-hmm.
result of a very thorough and very careful
Yeah.
selection by the reading committee.
That's
So
actually the hardest part, Lo. Coming from
yes,
essay to interview, it's like 4,000 down to 100, right? So your essay matters a lot, guys. So if you're selected as as part of the interviewee, then there is a reason for that, and you have to be confident because you're already in that stage, right, Melody?
yes, I agree with you. It's not easy for chevening applications to get shortlisted into interview process. So my experience as a panelist, when I look at the applications in my session, they're all impressive. So this is,
Yeah.
yes, they're all impressive. Is that can they articulate that to the panel? And we're gonna go to life in the UK. We kind of touched that a little bit about life in the UK, but maybe you want to add about Scottish life, Mbak Gita?
Scottish life is amazing, guys. Go to Scotland. No, I'm actually true. It's true. Even if you study in other places, I'm pretty sure you're going to visit Scotland, at least Edinburgh, and see the Loch Ness probably. But yeah, you should. I think the best part of Scotland at that time, and well, Scotland as a location, but also in particular my program, is that we are a 2 years program actually, and we had to finish it in a year as the Chevening Scholar, because the scholarship is only for 1 year. So essentially, at that time, life was hectic, right? We didn't have any real breaks, because our breaks are supposedly we do the studying first year and then we write the second year. That was how my program was designed, because it was research based. But then because we only had 1 year, so I had to do the study and the writing, and plus we want to experience the life in the UK, right? All in 1 year. And what was nice about Scotland is that 5 minutes away, you can already find a beautiful scenery to take a picture of. And 30 minutes away from Dundee, it was already St. Andrews. You can even play golf if you want. And then a bit further, you have the castles, and then drive 2 hours and you've already entered the beginning of Isle of Skye. So yeah, that was perfect location because I like nature. if you if you're a person that loves sort of the hustle bustle, there's also an option. Like you can go to Edinburgh. There's a big annual event, Hogmanay, every year.
I went there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there's a big thing in Edinburgh. There's also Glasgow and other bigger cities. But I love Dundee. I love my small city. Anyway, in terms of life in the UK, the Scottish people are one of the warmest, I would say, if I can say that. Yeah, and they're very welcoming and they're very interested in our stories about Indonesia because they're also very culturally rich. So they love swapping stories about culture. And if you're worried about life as, for example, if you're worried about life as a Muslim in the UK, at least in Scotland, and I would say in other parts of the UK, your support system are still there. I live like my apartment was literally in front of a mosque, and people still go to Friday prayer, and after, even during the fasting months, we would have a get together because we had to break fast at 10, so 10 p.m. So people would still a lot of the folks that are working in the mosque would open the doors, and we, the international students, can go there and just eat something together. So yeah, it was I would say life in the UK is very solid. And our support system as Chevening alumni is also super helpful at that time. And actually this year, we had a story where they just switch rooms. So one alumni goes back to Jakarta, and then the other comes and occupy her room. So this is a very close-knit community, guys. Yeah, no worries. If you need extra if you don't want to, like, if you purchase a bike, for example, and you don't want to take it back home, you can always sell it to the next Chevening scholars that is coming.
And plus, just in general, Indonesian students, even though, in my opinion, it's not as many as, let's say, other big countries like India, China. That is just the reality. But, you know, everyone there, the Indonesian students and their families, if they bring families, and the professor, you know, I mean, you know, we try to, be kind to one another, and that's one thing that I enjoy, you know, being with other Indonesians in Manchester, because Manchester is a diverse city. There are quite many Asian students in Manchester. There is actually, you know, a section of road, you know, in the city center. It has a name. It has a name, but people know it better as the Curry Mile. Because that serve food from South Asia, southern part of Asia, Indian, Pakistan food, even Middle East. So we call it Curry Mile. So, you know, I think the world is a place where you can find people from all kinds of parts, you know, in the world go there either to study or either to work. Final part.
Yes.
Actually, kind of the final point, but the final part of this is the program that the Alumni Association going to launch, which is the mentoring program. Can you share us a mentoring program, Gita, before we close this session?
Sure. This is very exciting, and we're very proud of the program. Of course, I'm not the one who's running it. That's why it's so good. No, but we've had this program since last year, and this is okay. So our sort of Alumni Association mission for the past 2 years, hopefully until next year, is pay it forward. So that's the big underline. So because you're already part of this amazing family, then how do you pay it forward, right? How do you make sure that the family is a good support system for each other? And one of the things that we invented at that time is the mentoring program. And it started from a simple idea of, you know, us, our own experience when we were doing the application, when we were prepping for interview. We had to look for people that wanted to mentor us. We had to do personal connection with fellow Chevening alumni. And in a way, we wanted to make this process much more inclusive and much more transparent and much more accessible for everyone. That's why we invented the mentoring program, where we recruit mentors from the alumni. So it was an open application for all mentors from all over the world. And because this year is actually virtual, then we can accept more mentors. Even the ones that are still in the UK can be a mentor. So this is great, right? Great news for this year. And at the same time, we also open up our door for more mentee coming from different parts of the country, because last year we can only do it, majority of it took place in Jakarta. So only the people that are closer to Jakarta or have means to actually go to Jakarta and follow the session can follow it. We had some in virtual, like Instagram stories and things like that, but it wasn't very accessible. We would say that this year we wanted to shift everything to virtual. So colleagues from Papua, from Aceh, from other parts of Indonesia can also become a part of it. Basically, last year we've had around 300 plus future scholars that participated, and almost 100 mentors. We want the number to be higher this year, and we also open more structured ways in terms of mentoring. So you'll get one-on-one mentoring session for your essays. You'll get one for your interviews, and then you also will get one to prep the life in the UK part, I guess. So one mentor for one mentee. That's the aim. If we cannot do it, we'll do one mentor for maximum 3 mentee.
Okay.
So that the attention are still okay.
If people want to be a mentee, they can go to the
yeah, so just follow us on Instagram or on Facebook. In Instagram, it's at ID Chevening Alumni. And actually, let me just pull up a screen for this so that people can take notes. There's the application are still open until the 12th of September, which is today. If you didn't get the chance to be part of the mentoring program, you can still follow some of the public events that we will have around the mentoring also. So some are not limited to only the mentee. You can still follow the public event. So yeah, can you see? Yeah.
Yes, I can see it.
I think this is just a glimpse of what happened in the Chevening Alumni Association live. Some of our events, we did movie screening. We did career sessions as well. We did the UK Day where we host the offline mentoring session. It was over 100 people participated there. And then this is the mentoring program, basically the people behind it and sort of the area of interest that we had last year, including from health all the way to business. Hopefully Ledy also will become one of the mentors this year. This is the glimpse of the session. So this is a sort of a circle of trust. They can ask anything about chevening, and we divide it according to their needs. So some folks are in a circle where they are still thinking about what to study, and others are very specific. They already know, and then we assign mentors based on that. So anyway, Instagram channel at ID Chevening Alumni, and then Twitter, we can do Twitter as well, ID Chef Alumni, and then you can visit our website www.idcheveningalumni.com. And then I'd like to actually recommend another website called Surviving the Masters that was created with one of our alumni, not part of the association, but we would love to promote this because it's a very well curated website that talks about how do you prep for your master studies in the UK, how do you prep for the Chevening Scholarship, and how do you prep for life in the UK.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, yes. Actually, we're going to have a program on the 20th of September to launch the mentoring program, and we will advertise it in the social media. So Ledy, please come as well. We will have we will have the first introduction of all of the formal program for 2020-2021 by the Alumni Association. We will kick off the mentoring, and we will also elect our new board of advisor for Chevening Alumni Association. Hint, he is a figure that just returned from the UK.
That is a difficult hint.
A prominent figure who just returned from the UK.
Let me just remind this to everyone who wants to apply, pay attention to deadlines, because there are two deadlines.
Oh yeah.
Deadlines for the Chevening application and deadlines to the university application, because two separate process. So I don't want people to miss this point. Deadline is important. So it may be different dates, because it will be, but even universities maybe have different dates. So manage your preparation for the application based on that. You have to remember those two deadlines. And there's actually a YouTube channel called Chevening Secretariat, which will able to give you I cannot give you some tips. Follow the social media accounts, and then stay tuned with the info from Chevening Alumni Association for more about the scholarship all the way to the deadline of the application. Right, Mbak Gita?
Yay, yes, we will be with you along the preparation road until November, but then you have to still do your thing until July, so you can get the letter of acceptance.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Just apply, everyone. Even during the pandemic, UK would still be an exciting place to study, and Chevening will still be there for you along the way. Yay!
Yeah. I got a scholarship on my third attempt.
See? So do not give up. Apply again.
Anyway, thank you, Mbak Gita. Thank you so much for...
Thank you, Ledy, for having us.
Yes.
Well, me, but the association as well, so us.
I'll see you soon, yeah? I'll see you soon in the event. And hopefully...
Yay!
Yeah, I'm sure this is useful for everyone who plan to apply this year. Thank you very much, Mbak Gita. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest of your
You
day.
too. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.